Let me do a quick intro and then let's jump right in. So, focus for the conversation today is cost cutting without compromise, replacing Mobius efficiently. So, purpose of the call today is to talk about how use platform three technologies to replace a Mobius deployment that may be old or tired in your environment. So, let me introduce our company first. I work for a company called Platform Three Solutions. Platform Three is a team of specialists. We're dedicated entirely to addressing your business complete data. We help you archive your legacy applications. We help you decommission old applications, and we help you migrate data by connecting to your legacy systems and streamlining the migration and archival of that content into a secure, stable platform. And we do it all without costing $1 million. We'll talk a little bit more about us later on. Let me introduce my guest for the conversation today. Sumitra. Sumitra is one of our top technologists at Platform 3. She's a project manager. She's been around for a long time, probably longer than me even. Um, she's responsible for some of our largest and most successful customers. One of my favorite things about Sumitra is she jumps into challenges with both feet and has been instrumental, really, in up-leveling our team on some of our most complex deployments. As a pre-sales SE for most of my career, I like to say that I'm the jack of all trades and the master of none. What I like about Sumitra is she is a master of all. It's like everything she jumps into, she sinks her teeth into, and she really gets stuck in. So she's a huge bonus to the team. And want to say thanks. Thanks for joining us today, Sumitra.
Thanks for inviting me, Andrew, and I'm very excited to be part of the conversation with you today.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here. So as I said already, at P3, we're an archive application decommissioning organization. We tend to be reactive to software market conditions. Companies are constantly retiring their legacy applications. And since we specialize in app decom, we tend to get waves of applications that are going end of life or end of service life, otherwise ending their support for their legacy applications. In addition to EOL, we also see a steady stream of organizations that effectively ending their innovation or just jacking up their prices for maintenance and support. And sometimes it's a combination of those things, and sometimes it's just customers are tired of keeping up with patches and software updates or pressing their customers. These organizations press their customers with complex or expensive maintenance renewals, like I said. So the focus for the conversation today is that uptick that we're seeing in activity related to Mobius specifically. We had a swell of Mobius activities with customers reaching out to us directly with questions about times and timelines to quickly replace their platform. So today we're going to talk about more about the how rather than the why, or sorry, how rather than the what's behind that push. But before we jump into it, let me give you a quick introduction to Mobius for anyone that doesn't know what it is. Spoiler alert, I used to work at Mobius. I don't want to date myself too much, but it was a good bit ago. Mobius was an innovator about 30 years ago. They were an early player in the content management space. Back then, this space was transitioning actually from physical paper documents, microfiche, and something called cold or computer output for laser disk into enterprise report management. And enterprise report management subsequently became enterprise content management. Mainframes back then were still pretty prevalent in the enterprise, certainly in large enterprises, and distributed platforms were really just starting to gain traction anywhere across the world. So for mainframe enterprise report management, there was a handful of players. IBM had some tools, RSD, Control D. There's a handful of players, but Mobius was one of the most innovative, I would say. Over the course of the last few decades, Mobius has changed hands, sadly, several times and gone by multiple names. So people searching for us, they look for RDS, Report Distribution System, I think was the original name, Mobius RDS, Mobius InfoPack, There was Mobius ViewDirect, and then it was ASG Mobius because they were acquired by a company called Allen Systems Group. And now, most recently, they're referred to as Rocket Mobius. So the way these legacy ERM tools is they allow you to capture and store what would formerly be printed reports electronically. Back then, when you wanted to capture and store what would formerly be, back then when you wanted to know how many widgets your company was producing last week, you would print a report and look at the report to see how many widgets you would produce last week. If you wanted to do that report once a week, you'd produce that report once a week and it would show up in your inbox, a physical inbox in the print room once per week. Each one of those reports was called a report version. So ERM customers had hundreds or thousands of reports, and each of those reports typically had multiple versions, one for each week, whatever period you were running that report. And they were scheduled to run periodically from once per day all the way up to maybe once per year. So if you're working in a large customer that's creating, for example, phone bills, those reports could be tens of thousands of pages long. And ERM tools need to index the reports so that a user doesn't have to go paging through hundreds of thousands of pages to find a customer's phone bill for a reprint. So ERM tools also provided indexing so you could perform a search and find that content. That's essentially the core functionality of an enterprise report management system. Each one of the different players had little niche tools. There were some redaction capabilities that, in my experience, were rarely ever used. There was report bundling, so you could package up different sections of a report and print it onto a printer or even send it to someone's email box. Again, those are all kind of niche tools. Our focus for today is how do we capture those reports, index them so people can still look up and find those reports. So specifically to Mobius, most of the customers that we run into that are reaching out to us are running Mobius on their mainframe, although it does run in a distributed environment. And that's what we're seeing mostly, right, Sumitra?
Yeah, most of our migrations have been on mainframe. Some are just text-based report repositories, but the really interesting ones are the ones that has a mixture of data objects that has images, overlays, and logos and even barcodes in their content. And the finally formatted output that we have in the mainframe systems are AFP, which is a mainframe print format.
Yeah, good point. Let's talk about AFP just for a second. AFP stands for Advanced Function Presentation. This is effectively a binary print format, right?
That's certainly right. AFP is an architecture system of hardware and software together that allows the users to create and format or print information on a variety of platforms. I would say they are device independent data streams, and IBM brought this standard into an open standard format in 2006. And AFP also provides the ability to hold the indexes for the document as well. And AFP is a fantastic shortcut for indexing any print stream. And we also say this AFP is a superset of MODCA format, which means mixed object data connect architecture that also support a variety of objects such as graphics, images, barcodes, and other font architectures in it.
Good, nice word salad there with MODCA or MODCA. Good work, good work. So tell me, why is AFP used at all? There's a bunch of other printer formats available. There's PDF. Why do people use AFP at all?
I must say AFP is very efficient. With AFP, you can embed the resources in the document once and you can reference them throughout the document. Imagine we have a larger phone bill or a gas bill that contains a lot of logos or fonts information, and we have other elements in the page. With AFP, we can define and store these elements once and reference them and invoke them as many times as you want in the document. And they also define the medium maps to a specific copy group, and it defines the physical orientation or the physical printing mediums can be defined for each of the copy groups. And when this AFP came out, like 40 years ago, the disk storage was much more expensive than it is today.
Uh,
And this larger enterprises needed a way to efficiently store these reports.
right. So one thing you said there kind of piqued my interest. You said AFP came out over 40 years ago. So since technology moves so slowly, there must be lots of subject matter expertise available with AFP. Is that right?
Unfortunately, no, as I would say, to meet the constantly evolving trend of the market, and there is a need to shift towards any modern solutions or lakehouse archival platforms like we own. We have only bunch of experts who could possibly help us in this migration. This limitation pushed us to go beyond and unlock the door ourselves that opened endless possibilities to have the complete control over the data.
Right. So I'm starting to see a theme develop here, right? Let's get back on track out instead of just AFP for a second. We're working with legacy ERM systems like Mobius that are kept around because they contain large repositories. Sometimes those repositories still have new data still coming in that people are still using those enterprise report management systems. This is combined, right, with a lack of subject matter expertise to perform the extraction, particularly from complex data sets like AFP. And then there's a handful of features rarely used today, like securing access to a subset of pages within a document. Does that sound right?
The challenges that I would see in archiving such legacy ERM systems are how efficiently or quickly we can get the data out. In the process of doing that, we would also study the nature of the reports. If there is an report that belongs to a text or an AFP type, the frequency in which it gets created into the system, or how often it is accessed, and also about this retention period of these reports that helps us to decide on the birth cycle of the data. And the second important factor is on how we provide a user experience that satisfies the business needs. The content information can be restricted to any specific topics or sections or at any report levels based on the user privileges.
Right. So let's break those two elements down. Let's talk about how do we get the data out. At its core, right, moving massive amounts of data from a legacy repository, regardless where it sits on the mainframe or distributed platform, it's a physics problem, right? There's things we can do to adjust the number of and and other things that we can do to like help speed up that physical movement of content. But at its core, it's a lift and shift. Is that correct?
That's absolutely true. And then, like I said, AFP are device independent data streams. And with the right set of tools, our focus would be mainly on setting up the workflow on the EDL pipeline. And with a lot of understanding that we have gathered, in case of AFPs, the source system, we should capture it as AFPs in our target as well. This can save a lot of time down the line
Mm,
rather spending
right.
more time in converting into other formats that is uh, convenient for us or decoupling those resource objects rather we directly take the AFP in our target systems as well.
Got it. So I understand there's some complexity there too, right, Sumitra?
Yes, it does. Like any other project during our analysis phase, we understand the system better, and we have a lot of conversations with the customers about where these reports are coming up from, how many applications are being used that generates such reports. And with the knowledge that we have gathered over this period and understanding of how this AFP is created, we would look for the resources that all compromises, like the indexes, the page definitions that define the placement of the data in the print, and the form definitions that defines the different kinds of overlays pertaining to any copy groups. And it is all where the libraries are located. That should be our key focus to extract those information
Right.
from those libraries. And we do run some test extractions and validating, and if you're pulling the right resources for each of the reports.
Yeah, that makes sense. So while you were talking, I popped up a slide there that walks through what I like to call the happy path for an AFP file coming off the mainframe. What are we looking at here?
What you see here shows like we have this outputs from a lot of applications in the mainframe, and we have this utility called ACIF that is creating these AFP files, and it also does the indexing for us. It's automatic. It's an acronym for automatic conversion or AFP conversion and indexing facility that creates these AFP files, and also it provides the resources that are required to generate these fully composed AFP files.
So walk me through it quickly then, Sumitra. This is basically the foundation of our initial engagement with our customers, right? Understanding what this workflow looks like. Now, this I call this the happy path because you can see there's some dotted lines on there, and the dotted lines really are determined based on defined by where the customer actually manages and maintains their resources when they apply those resources to the document.
Yes, and when we had this initial conversations with the Mobius and the mainframe admins to understand and come up with the design solution that we have proposed, and we put this flow chart, and we were all in line. And our challenges was to identify where these resources are located, and we also meet with the business users to understand how they search for the content and what the content looks like and what do they do with it. And we also have downstream and upstream applications that also interact with these contents, and we find the user access for those applications and what are the use cases with that as well. The process is iterative, like it takes several interactions with the customer depending on the complexity and the viewing requirements of them.
Right. So then what happens that we have those are iterative conversations.
And once we have come up with the design solution and this initial iteration of discussions and validations, we go ahead with the wireframing the end user experience with some of the sample reports. One could be from the text, or we have different varieties of AFP reports based on the business use cases. We do the wireframe with one sample report and see how this overlays are being sent for different user access, and based on their feedback, uh, we go ahead with the physical migration that can happen at a very rapid pace after this wireframe is convincing for the customers.
Got it. So do we need to use Mobius software to do this?
Whenever possible, yes, we can leverage some of the tools that are already present in Mobius. We get those DB listing reports that provides the consolidated info on the users that are currently being used in the current archival, and the user groupings, the access level information, and it also holds information on the purge period for all kind of reports. The product also talks little details on how the content is indexed as well.
So we can use Mobius to recreate or rebuild that user access requirements and the indexing.
Mobius uses the terms in sections or topics as to refer to indexes, and also the
Got it. Yep.
recipients as some of the users who can have specific access to particular sections inside a document or a report. Now that we have pulled a lot of the current archive configurations from the Mobius or the existing system, replicating them is not a hard deal, and our archive workflow is built in a way to automate all the whole process.
Fantastic. So if I was going to sum up the extraction, then the extraction component before we jump into the end user access, the second key item we talked about earlier. Uh, Basically, we spend a bunch of time up front understanding the flow of the data. We take a lot of consideration for formatted documents like AFP, since they contain complexity. And with AFP, there's font mapping and all kinds of other things you have to take into consideration. Once we understand those core elements, we extract additional indexes and access requirements directly from Mobius, and then we basically let physics run its course through the extraction process.
That's right, Andrew. What we all need to do is to deliver the right documents to the users and in a way that they are needing it and also that could satisfy some of their business use cases.
Nice segue. How do we present it to the users? So let's dive into that. One thing that's constantly impresses me about our software, Archon Data Store, is that the UI is highly configurable. So I expect we have no problems displaying the content once it's captured in the archive. Does that sound right?
That's mostly true, but we still have to perform additional configuration, understanding the current system, how it does work, and we need to make some of the configurations at our end as well, Andrew.
Okay, so yeah, good. Let me walk me through that then, Sumitra. What would be a scenario where there's complexity in delivering the content?
Complexity, the most important thing in making sure we are addressing the end user indexing requirements and synthesizing that user access requirements. In our experience, people care very less about securing access to just a handful of pages within a document. That is very less important for a long term archive. but we still provide the functionality for such use cases where customers need it. The most common way for Mobius to secure documents is using a term they call it like section indexing. Basically, securing a section that is available or that can be retrieved by only a specific user community.
Right. So the example that I use is a sales report that's broken into regions, right? East, Central, West, sort of a thing. And user will only see the report data for which they have access to. In fact, I think I've got a visualization that can show that. So let me pop that up here while you're talking.
Yeah, if you see here, like for granular indexing, Mobius uses the term topic indexes. The topic indexes could be in any data on the page that you want to make available for search. The most relatable examples could be the topics such as statement number or a purchase order number or the invoices. And we have a lot of factors to have them termed as topic indexes. And the customers have use cases to build some search reports on top of these search indexes as well. So we want to make sure that our user community has access to the searches they performed yesterday that was available in Mobius. Same feature we would want them to have in Archon data store as well.
Right. So crucially, we want to provide a UI that requires little or no training at all. So users can log into Archon Data Store, and the experience should be familiar enough so that they can get access to their content with very little or no training. Does that sound right?
That's correct. Yeah, we are planning to exactly mimic what they can pull the information from OBS and ADS delivers the same content via browser to authorized users. We can provide drill down from reports to report versions, sections, and provide native viewing of those report contents as well. Like we can deliver it considering user privileges for some of the access to that reports. We can enable searching using those topic indexes as well so that users can bypass the complete navigation to reach to any particular document that they're looking for.
Okay, fantastic. So we've covered how do we capture the data, and then how do we present the data. What else are we missing?
I think we need to also mention this about a day forward scenario where we have plans of
Yeah.
using our custom methods to deploy a listener to monitor the just queue that is in the mainframe to enable day forward capture of text or any incoming spool data.
Good point, Sumitra. So for customers archiving off a legacy ERM that still have day forward requirements, it's important to make sure that we address day forward reporting needs. Is there anything particularly unique or interesting about that capability or that requirement, Sumitra?
The basic functionality of sweeping, like how it is present in the Mobius, we should be able to do that. And along with that, we need to also ensure that we have proper layers of monitoring and notification systems enabled for a secure and stable environment. This ensures this business continuity plan is in place, and we should be able to cover most of the failure scenarios when we have the complete control of this automation at our end.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. So capture the reports, download them, get them stored and moved into a modern platform. Make sure that we're providing viewing access. Make sure that we can provide day forward access. And again, like I said earlier, that foundation, that iterative step of setting up the foundation for that iterative step where we interview the users and validate what they need to do and how they want to see the reports and the reports look the way they want to. That's the core component at the front end. Once we set that foundation, the rest of the building comes together relatively quickly. So let's sum up the conversation with some points to note about the product we have, Archon Data Store, and a little bit about Platform 3 Solutions. We've got a couple minutes left here, so let me just introduce our company. We grew up as a professional services organization. We focus entirely on helping our customers archive and migrate their legacy data from old platforms onto a stable, secure content platform. One crucial point to know about the solutions we provide is they're designed to be affordable, People move their data into an archive not because it's new and next, it's because they're looking for an affordable way to reduce their risk profile while adding compliance and governance to their content. So again, the goal is we're not going to charge you $1 million. We developed our tools over the years to address market needs that we decided are not being met by other tools currently available. We've been selling ETL now for about a decade, nearly a decade, and we've actually archived thousands of applications via our ETL tool. The content repository that we're talking about today, that came along a little bit more recently, about 4 years ago. We have a dedicated team of professionals that do nothing but eat, sleep, breathe, and love attacking enterprise archiving projects. So P3 software can be deployed on premises, can be deployed in your cloud, or we offer a SaaS-based solution as well. Similarly, we still have a very healthy services team. So we provide anywhere from a full white glove or managed service experience that includes the software and the services. And if it's in SaaS, your users just have to log in and access their content. Or we can provide you the software, let you deploy and install and run it and manage it on your own. So full spectrum of services and a comprehensive product for enterprise archiving applications. The end user experience that I mentioned earlier, it's capable of enormous flexibility for these types of use cases, whether they're data or document or mixed content use cases. At the end of the day, an application that's business complete, it's data and a presentation layer, right? You've got a data layer and a presentation layer. And that's what we do a really good job of, making sure that we provide full flexibility and capability for the data layer in the back end, and making sure that we can deliver that to the users in a way that makes sense and it's familiar enough, again, like I said earlier, so they don't have to retrain on it. In addition to that data and the presentation layer that we provide natively within the product, we also provide some dashboarding capabilities in the products, and we recognize that we're not going to have the best BI and reporting tools, so we integrate with Tableau, Cognos, and a handful of others, and we have a full-featured API. So regardless how you want to enable access to that content on the back end, our platform, Archon Data Store, can provide the user experience you need. So what should you expect from a Mobius project specifically? Number one, native viewing of your content in Archon Data Store, whether it's image, AFP, text, or data, you can view it natively within Archon Data Store. We can help you automate that migration. We can give you guidance on that automation, and we have the ETL tools that simplify that automation process. We have a multi-threaded approach if you need to expedite that movement or that migration. So we have multiple teams that we can bring to bear to parallelize that work function. We'll work on your timeline. And again, as I said, it's a painless process without costing an exorbitant amount of money. And so finally, keep in mind that the archiving Mobius is a single application. We have experience in hundreds and hundreds of applications, whether they're database applications like CRM, HCM, or ERP systems. HCM actually might be classified as a mixed content plus data system. Whether it's content-only systems like Mobius, CMOD, Documentum, or other content repositories, Archon Data Store is capable of one-stop shopping for all your application archival. So I don't know. I don't think we have time for questions today.
Yeah,
What role does? Oh, actually, let's see. There is one. What role does cloud technology play in replacing Mobius? Is this where most companies are heading? Yeah, absolutely. Most of our customers we're seeing don't want to have, I mean, an archive, again, it's a vault, right? It's a storage locker. Most people don't want to be in the business of managing the server updates and the operating system updates associated with that content archive. So we're seeing a big push into SaaS in that scenario. So let's close out here. I think we're just on the tip of the 30 minutes we had allotted for today. I'd like to thank Sumitra again for your valuable insight. Appreciate you being here, and I appreciate being the honor of working with you, Sumitra. I'm sure
Had
you'd
a
love
great
to.
time.
I'm
Yeah,
sure you'd love. Hold on. I'm sure you'd love to dive into more interesting or complex components of Mobius. Um, Perhaps we can get there for another time. We'll see what the audience feedback looks like.
sure.
So
We'll
yeah,
do
thank
that.
you.
It's great to have you as well, Andrew. It's nice to catch up on live meetings like this, apart from our regular stand-ups. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, totally. As you can tell, we work on different sides of the planet, so we speak to each other every day, but rarely face to face. If anyone on has questions, challenges, or a Mobius project you're struggling with, please reach out. Catch us on LinkedIn, catch us online, send us an email, find us on our website, platform3solutions.com. We're an approachable group. We're easy to get along with, and we'll be happy to understand your challenge. If you're interested, we're planning to provide more of these educational sessions too for our audience. If you have a topic or if you have feedback on this one, we're all ears. If not, thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.